Hi, and welcome to Real Estate from the Trenches. I'm Dennis Norman, and I'm back to talk with you today about a common topic, NAR's Clear Cooperation Policy, and also Zillow. As you may recall, right before the end of March, NAR made a rule change or a change to the Clear Cooperation Policy rule. And it was anticipated they might do away with the entire Clear Cooperation rule, but instead they changed it. They added an additional status that MLSs needed to offer that would be a delayed marketing status, where listings would go in the MLS and be available to all the agents that were members of the MLS and go out on VOWs, virtual office website feeds, but not go out on the normal IDX website feeds or normal syndication. So they came out with that. Shortly after that, Zillow came out with a new rule, and that prompted the video that you see there that I did, questioning, we're not questioning, but talking about what Zillow was doing and blocking listings, because it seemed at first it was a kind of a dramatic change. It certainly got a lot of attention, a lot of press, a lot of people talking about it, a lot of buzz around the industry. And because Zillow came out with this policy that stated that they would ban listings from their site for the duration of the listing period for that agent who had it listed, if the listing was publicly marketed outside of the MLS. So anyway, it was a little confusion. At first it seemed that this was Zillow kind of taking a stance against, or taking a stand against NAR's change to Clear Cooperation Policy. And it seemed, and a lot in the industry, including me, took from that they were not going to allow listings that were put in delayed marketing to end up being on their site. So that got a lot of attention. I did an article about it and talked, well, there were a lot of articles done about it, but in my article I also addressed how that stance was quite different than Compass, because you had Compass Realty out there pushing for their private listing networks. Then after, again, within a few days, Redfin jumped on the bandwagon, and Redfin was taking the same stance as Zillow. So it seemed like all these forces are mounting for transparency and for consumer good. And now, just this morning, I wrote an article on Real Estate Industry News, Real Estate from the Trenches, and it, as my headline I think says it all, Zillow's big rule change, game changer or nothing burger. I've kind of come to the conclusion that it's a nothing burger, and I'm not knocking Zillow or anybody else for this. I think it's if I'm right here, it's a brilliant move for marketing. It's gotten them a ton of publicity. For the most part, I think it's been positive because the move looks pro-consumer and all of this. But when it comes right down to it, well, here, let me explain why I wrote the article. I wrote the article because Errol Samuelson, an executive with Zillow, put a post in LinkedIn to clarify Zillow's position, and you'll see it here in the article behind me. And so there's a list of all the listings that are permitted in Zillow. He wanted to make it clear what is going to be permitted. And you'll see in there, in that list, the second item are office exclusives. So even if a listing or an agent takes a listing office exclusive initially, as long as they don't publicly market it, they'll take that once they take it live or take it in the normal MLS. And then you notice bullet point 4 are delayed marketing listings. So in fact, the new status that NAR added to the Clear Cooperation Policy, the listings that are in that status are in fact permitted in Zillow, not prohibited, as I and a lot of people in the industry thought initially. So then the question is, well, what's the change then? What's not permitted? And you'll see on the list, for listings not permitted by Zillow, there's a rather short list with one bullet point, and that would be listings publicly marketed, selectively hidden from some buyers. So basically, what Zillow's new policy, and I guess Redfin's new policy, what it's banning and what they're going to keep off their sites are listings that have been publicly marketed and were not put in the MLS within 1 business day of public marketing. Well, that is nothing, because that's not permitted. The NAR's clear cooperation policy requires that listings that are publicly marketed go in the MLS within 1 business day. So that rule's been out there ever since clear cooperation came into existence. And office exclusives aren't allowed to be marketed publicly. So I guess my realization was that really Zillow's changes and all this conversation and Redfin's change hasn't amounted to anything. They're just saying they're not going to publish listings that meet a criteria, that the only way you can meet that criteria, which would be to be marketed publicly and not be in the MLS, best I can figure, the only way you can meet that criteria is if you're breaking NAR's, well, MLS rules that are prescribed by NAR. So I don't see it as being a much of a rule change at this point. So at this point, I call it a nothing burger. But again, if it was just a marketing ploy, kudos to them, because it did get Zillow and Redfin, for that matter, a lot of pre-press, and I think for the most part, good coverage. So there you go. Have a great day.